It's super fun to watch Trump name these names to the cabinet. And I don't know about you, but I'm loving it. I think it's just so innovative to go completely Trumpian. Just keep people on their heels. Do not go with establishment types like he tried to do the first time. And I see absolutely nothing wrong with him going with Trump loyalists, but that term keeps getting bandied about as though it's a bad thing.
Well, actually, I think it's, I call it the dream team. I'm really super impressed. We have Elon Musk. We have a good friend of mine, Vivek Ramaswamy, who's incredibly talented. I love all these. I actually been super impressed with all the picks so far.
The New York Times, the Daily podcast today, and the New York Times itself is really wrestling with Elon's elevation to the right-hand man of the sitting president-elect. They don't seem happy. I feel like you should look at somebody like Elon who's willing to serve in any capacity for our government and just say thank you. But they are concerned. He's got 100 different lawsuits against him. How is he going to deal with those conflicts of interest? He's got all sorts of regulatory constrictions on him that are important to our safety. You know, how can he possibly be in this important role? What do you make of Elon being willing to serve as he is?
I think he's a great American. I think he's a great global citizen. You know, if you have to think of a guy who's made more consequential impact on society, on everything from the electric car to space to now Neuralink, AI, you know, he's I would say the most important figure of our time in the non-political sphere. And now we have the benefit of all of his talents, you know, working alongside the president. I mean, it's an incredible home run. I have not been this excited to be, you know, an American, if you will, in a very long time. And so it's amazing.
Yeah, I feel the same. And so what they announced last night was that Elon and Vivek are going to work together on DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and start trying to find efficiencies in the biggest business of them all, the United States government, and figure out where we can tighten our belt and save some money. And yet, you know, sort of the established Washington, D.C. class is very upset about this because it means jobs of federal bureaucrats. And that's what runs D.C. So what do you make of this idea of DOGE? Trump says in the announcement it's going to be completely outside government. These two will not be government employees.
Yeah, I think it's a home run. You know, I've always thought of the United States as one of the greatest. My day job is to find these really great companies that have lost their way. And then what we try to do is bring in great new management and have them, you know, fix the business. And that's basically what's happening here. And they're not going to have to look far. And everyone knows the government is the most ineffective bureaucracy in the world. Our governments generally, ours has not particularly impressed us as citizens. And now we have an opportunity not just to find you know, cost savings, but actually to operate more effectively. You know, the analogy that Musk makes is he says, you know, think of the government, you know, as just a, you know, when you go get your license, you know, updated, think about how inefficient that process is. Well, imagine the entire country being run that way. And I think that's the opportunity, and having sort of outsiders do this. You know, Elon certainly has the playbook. You know, X was a quasi-governmental agency in the way it operated in San Francisco, and he stepped in, he you know, took out 80-90% of the employees, and it's become a much more effective platform. Software development, the various features, functionality, you know, have been able to happen much more quickly under new leadership, and I think that's what we have here. I think it's going to be a huge boon for you know, the economy, for business generally. And that will help everyone.
When we saw Javier Milei run for and then ascend to power in Argentina, a lot of us were shocked by how he spoke and the things he did with the chainsaw that he was going to take to government, and highly entertaining. Here he is with this chainsaw. And look at this guy. I love him. So I have friends who are from Argentina, and they're absolutely thrilled with what he's doing. And he told everybody there, we're in for some short-term pain as we try to get our enormous inflation down. But these are the things we have to do. Here he is. This is video for the listening audience of him pulling these names off a board, the ministry of this, the ministry of that, and throwing them behind him. We don't need it. It's down. It's out. And that's how I see Elon and Vivek, you know, who are supposed to go in there, and Javier Milei our government. I had the advantage of being next to Elon in September when he spoke on the All In podcast at their summit. And I, too, was there and spoke on the same thing. And he was describing what it was he would like to do if this whole thing worked out, if Trump were elected and if he could form this DOGE thing. Take a listen here to SOT 10.
If you could just pair 2, 3, 4, 5% of those organizations, what kind of impact could that have?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd need to do more than that. I think
ideally,
yeah.
If you could shrink the size of the government with Trump, what would be a good target, just in terms of like ballpark?
I mean, are you trying to get me assassinated before this even happens?
No. Pick a low number.
I mean, there's that old phrase, go postal. I mean, it's like their mind. I'm not suggesting that people, have like are immediately tossed out with no severance and can't pay their mortgage. There needs to be some reasonable off ramp where,
Transition plan.
Yeah. So a reasonable off ramp where they're still earning, they're still receiving money, but have a year or two to find jobs in the private sector, which they will find, and then they will be in a different operating system.
So you heard him, Bill, say in response to Jason, who said 2, 3, 4%. And Elon said, it's going to be more than that. So how high do you think we could go on shaving the bureaucracy?
I think there's a massive amount of waste. And I think you're going to see fairly dramatic change. And I think it'd be incredibly uplifting for the people who stay. And I think it'll be uplifting for the people who have the opportunity to do something new. As he said, I think they're going to be quite generous with severance, making sure that people can transition to the private sector. So I think it's going to be good for everyone.
Yeah, what do you make of that? Because the last thing Trump wants 100 days into his administration is massive layoffs that run up the unemployment rate and make him look bad. So he's not going to want that narrative in the press, even though he will want these efficiencies. So how would you recommend they handle the offloading of these federal employees?
Sure. So what's interesting is you don't want to give people a disincentive to find a job, right? If you just hand everyone 2 years severance, some people may say, okay, I'll take the next 20 months to just have fun and I'll go look for a job. And then it becomes hard to get a job at the end of that. So I think the right approach is to give enough severance so people are absolutely covered between this job and the next one. And then basically pay it to them over time. But when they find a job, pay them the balance of the severance. So let's say they give it a year of severance. Someone finds a job a month after leaving government. Well, then they get 11 months of salary as a bonus. People are incentivized to find their next job. And I think you have job training. And then, of course, there are a lot of people in government where you could probably, just instead of severance, you allow them to begin the retirement process early. And government employees are very well taken care of in terms of pension.
I like that. That makes sense and is less scary for those worried that it might be their next on the chopping block. But we all know there are too many employees, that we have 20 people to do the job of one, and they're counting on no one paying attention to how inefficient the government is. It's baked into the system that no one's going to be looking at just how much red tape there is and how many people we have enforcing it and how useless it is. And worse than useless, it's pernicious. It stops development. It stops business. One more Elon clip, and then I want to talk about a post you made on X today. He explained with SpaceX how impossible the regulatory system makes it. And really kind of said, at this rate, we're never going to colonize Mars, which is one of his life goals. We're never going to get there because when it comes to building rockets and so on, it's just absolutely prohibitive what they make innovators go through. Here was his example. It's SOT 27.
The next flight Starship is ready to fly. We are waiting for regulatory approval.
Yeah.
It really should not be possible to build a giant rocket faster than the paper can move from one desk to another.
I mean, it's perfectly well said. And he talked just about other problems he had, like one of the rockets dumped water. I think it was potable water. It was drinkable water on the desert as a release valve. And he got fined like $35,000 for that. And went to them and said, what are you doing? I'm trying to innovate. I'm working with the government. I've been, used by NASA to resupply the space station. Get off of my back. And they won't. It's just, those are all great examples of A, why we need reform, and B, what drove him here. So what do you make of it?
Look, I think actually just getting back to what you talked about before, the context for the efficiency creation in government is one in which I think there's going to be a huge boon in the economy. I think, what's interesting is I'm hearing from, friends who control a lot of assets, invest in lots of operating companies, that the management teams of their businesses are extremely optimistic. Even those that have voted against Trump are excited about what's going to happen with the economy. So I think we're going to have a big economic boom, and actually freeing up a meaningful number of government employees to make them available to the private sector will actually help manage the potential for inflation. So the cost cutting is one thing, but making the government more efficient on regulatory approvals. You think about how difficult it is in America to build a bridge, a highway, a house, the faster, if you can accelerate construction, obviously that has a huge impact on infrastructure, the fluidity of the economy, driving demand, and actually, I think freeing up government workers to step into some of these roles that will be created will actually help the economy manage through this period.
It could really change their lives, too, for the better. It'd be so exciting to work for one of these innovative companies, hiring new blood. These people have been stuck in these concrete jungles in the circles of DC, and maybe it's a new leaf for them too. You wrote in that X post to which I referred, and you mentioned that merger and acquisition activity is about to explode. Do you think so?
Yes. So the Biden administration has been, and Lena Khan, who's led the FTC, very anti sort of merger, and the result of that is, many of the startups in our country don't get to a scale where they can go public. They have to be basically sold. And if you don't allow the Facebooks and the Googles and the other companies to make acquisitions, these businesses eventually either run out of capital or run out of opportunity. And there are a lot of big companies where meaningful synergies can be created when one business buys another. But if you can't do a deal, you have to sort of put it on hold. And sort of the antitrust environment in the last 4 years was one in which you wouldn't even try to do a transaction. I think that's going to change. And so there's sort of a long list of transactions that are waiting to happen in the event there's a change in administration. And now that, post November 5th, you'll see very aggressive announcements. And the benefit of a merger beyond just the synergies is that often it's an opportunity for the people who invested in the first company, the company being acquired, to take their capital and redeploy it in something else. It's going to free a lot of capital in the economy. That's going to put money into the in the system that's going to fuel growth. So it's going to be a pretty exciting time for the country.
The Genucel Dark Spot Corrector is back, and it's on sale at Genucel.com. The Dark Spot Corrector reduces the appearance of sunspots, brown spots, discoloration, and even red inflamed patches. And for the holiday preview sale, the Genucel Jawline Treatment is also on sale at Genucel.com. It tightens and sculpts the sensitive skin in the jawline and neck area with Genucel proprietary technology. Plus, new customers will save an additional 50% off the website sale prices automatically at checkout. Best prices on Genucel luxury skincare in their 25-year history. Go to Genucel.com now. Order any bestseller or even the Genucel Complete Skincare Package, which includes the classic Genucel Bags and Puffiness Treatment and the Immediate Effects product, all at massive discounts, and still save an additional 50% off your first order at checkout. Genucel.com/MK today. That's GENUCEL.com/MK. And as a special gift, every package order includes a limited edition beauty box with 2 skincare essentials, absolutely free with your order. Genucel.com/MK. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.